I'm the Reverend Dr. Karen Hamilton, the former General Secretary of the Canadian Council of Churches, former co-chair of the 2018 Parliament of the World's Religions, and I have spent my life, my ministry, decades now, engaged in various ways and means of doing interfaith dialogue, of doing ecumenism, the relationships of the Christian churches together. It's been such a privilege. It's like standing on holy ground, and I continue to do that work. It's a calling. It's a vocation. And so in that spirit, I have written my fourth book entitled Faith as Protest, Answering the Call to Mend the World. And if you ask me what inspired me to write this, God inspired me to write this. It's part of my vocation. It's part of my experience. It's very much tied into the people that I have worked with, the privileges that I have had in terms of ministry and places to engage. The book is written out of the understanding that there are problems. We all know that. We all read the news. There are problems, deep problems, broad problems, problems that seem insurmountable in the world. And it's hard to know how to engage. It's hard to know where exactly God is calling us to. So what I've done is interviewed a number of people. There are 10 chapters, as I said. I've interviewed a number of people who are deeply engaged in many of these issues. Deeply engaged in issues such as human trafficking, racism, refugee realities, religious freedom, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, indigenous realities, genocide, climate crisis, deeply engaged in working for the mending of the world in the context and the framework of those issues. So there's an educational purpose to the book, to be sure. But I also wrote the book wanting to find out how it is that we as individuals can engage in these issues. What are the concrete things that we can really do to make a difference in what are huge and somewhat insurmountable seeming issues? I also wrote the book and asked a second question. I asked everyone I interviewed how we as individuals can engage, and there are links at the end of each chapter as well as very wise words from each of the interviewees about that engagement. But I also asked where they found any hope in these issues. These are deep, powerful, painful issues that have been with us for decades and for which there are not easy answers. I was really surprised. I thought that many of those I interviewed would say they've been engaging in these issues, it's a faithful call for them, but do they see hope in them? That's difficult. But you know, every single person responded that they found hope in these issues. They've not in the issues themselves, of course, but in the way that people are working together and individuals are working in terms of healing and in the ways in which that healing can go forward. Sometimes it's simply, the hope was in such a simple thing as awareness, that people are now aware of these issues. They're no longer hidden. And that in itself is huge because it enables us to go forward. It was like standing on holy ground. And I say that in the conclusion of the book, to interview these visionary colleagues with so much to say, so articulate, so many stories to tell. The stories are very engaging. It was my privilege to reflect on their words and actions, to add my own words to the stories that they're telling, to the depth of their faith and passion. This is an interfaith book on social justice. And so it was a privilege to engage with so many from so many faith traditions, people who can see divinity in the face of others, who are persistent and consistent, who are creative and react quickly when quick reactions are needed. They engage in faith, they engage with the world, they engage with how they very much envision God to be. God is inspiring them all, and they live in hope. They're sustained by the belief that what they are called to do is indeed the divine calling to them. The book is dedicated to my dear friend, Suhaila al-Qadiri, my Syrian friend, whose incredible courage, wisdom, steadfast persistence, ability to risk, love of life, and joyous laughter inspire me every day. It's inspired by colleagues who I may know only by their writings, such as the Rabbi Jonathan Sacks of blessed memory, who says, we may not be silent in the face of wrongdoing or injustice. We must use whatever influence we have. It's a calling to us all in Suhaila's name, in Rabbi Jonathan Sacks' name, to engage indeed, to engage with these writers, to engage with our world, our faith tradition, and how indeed we are called to mend the world. Book of the Prophet Isaiah, a holy book for a number of traditions represented in this book, says in chapter 6, verse 8, then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send and who will go for us? And I said, here I am, send me. So I say to us all, here we are, send us.